How MEXICA works. Chapter 5. An example of how a narrative is generated. This tale is called The Kidnapped Tlatoani and was generated by MEXICA. I'm going to give details on how it was developed. The first action is given by the user. On the left, we find a number that represents the story time. This action was produced at time 0 because it was given by the user. On the right side, we can see a number that represents the value of detention. By default, when new characters appear in the story, they are located in Tenochtitlan City. Let's begin. MEXICA starts in engagement. However, an impasse is declared and the system switches to reflection to try to break the impasse. Because the Tlatoani is a new character, it needs to be introduced in the story. This is a technical requirement. So, MEXICA inserts the action number 1 in order to fulfill this requirement. Then, the system realizes that it's necessary to justify why the Tlatoani liberated himself. So, it inserts action 2. The priest kidnapped Tlatoani. As a result of this second action, MEXICA locates both characters in the Chapultepec forest. This is the tensional representation of the story in progress. The system switches to engagement and 3 new actions are generated. The priest attacked the Tlatoani and the priest fought. The priest wounded the Tlatoani. At this point, the story reaches the highest tension in the story, in this case 100. MEXICA switches to reflection and realizes that it's necessary to justify why the priest attacked the Tlatoani. So it inserts action 6. The Tlatoani affronted the priest to justify why the priest attacked the Tlatoani. This is the tensional representation of the story in progress. The system switches back to engagement and generates 3 more actions. The priest ran away, the prince decided not to cure the Tlatoani, the prince went back to Tenochtitlan City. Notice that action 8 introduces a new character, and a question arises. Why did the new character not want to cure the Tlatoani? MEXICA switches to reflections to sort it out all these situations. First, it detects that there is a new character in the tale and inserts action 10 to introduce it. Next, because the Tlatoani is located in the Chapultepec forest, the system inserts action 11 to send the prince to the same location. Now, the system noticed that the prince is not aware that the Tlatoani is injured. In this way, action 12 is inserted to solve this problem. At this point, the system is in a situation where it can justify why the prince decided not to cure the Tlatoani. So it inserts action 13 where the Tlatoani affronted the priest. However, this last action also has preconditions that need to be fulfilled. In order to justify action 13, the MEXICA system inserts action 14. The prince attempted to take advantage of the Tlatoani. Again, this action has preconditions to be satisfied. Finally, action 15 is added to the tale in order to satisfy the precondition of action 14. The idea of this last precondition is to make the story more interesting. MEXICA switches back to engagement and an impasse is triggered. Then it switches back to reflection and inserts action 16 in order to try to break the impasse. The system switches back to engagement and a new impasse is triggered. It switches back to reflection, but this time the impasse cannot be broken, so the story ends. MEXICA substitutes the story actions with the alternative text in order to produce the final output. The kidnapped Tlatoani. The Tlatoani was an inhabitant of the great Tenochtitlan. The priest kidnapped the Tlatoani and went to the Chapultepec forest. With a hidden knife, the Tlatoani was able to cut all the ropes and escape. The Tlatoani was really angry for what had happened and affronted the priest. The priest shrewdly observed the Tlatoani, then took a dagger and attacked the Tlatoani. Suddenly, the Tlatoani and the priest were involved in a violent fight. In a fast movement, the priest wounded the Tlatoani. An intense hemorrhage arose which weakened the Tlatoani. The priest felt panic and ran away. The prince was an inhabitant of the great Tenochtitlan. Early in the morning, the prince went to the Chapultepec forest. Suddenly, the prince realized that the priest wounded the Tlatoani. The Tlatoani always felt a special affection for the prince. The prince attempted to take advantage of the situation of the Tlatoani. The Tlatoani was really angry for what had happened and affronted the prince. The prince, knowing that the Tlatoani's life was at risk, resolved not to cure the Tlatoani. The prince decided to go back to the great Tenochtitlan city. The injuries that the Tlatoani received were very serious, so the Tlatoani died. This is the final tensional representation of the story. As we can observe, action 2 arises the tension until the value of 40. Action 5 reaches the climax. Action 7 releases several of the tensions. However, action 8 increases the tension again. Finally, the last action releases all the tensions. This is the end of the video. MEXICA is a very complex system, and in this introduction I have simplified many of the processes behind it. There are several published articles that provide details about the model and the program. I really hope you enjoyed this experience, and hopefully all these ideas will inspire you to keep on developing the engagement reflection model. Thanks for your attention.